Welcome back to another episode of No Tippy Tappy Football, brought to you by Boyle Sports. Thank you so much for joining us again this week. Now, do not panic because Sam is not here. Don't worry, I can tell you there's no exclusive news on him getting a new job or anything like that, but he is having his mid-season break, his mid-season refresh, so he can come back to the business end of the podcast season and be as strong as ever. So we have in our favourite interim boss. Of course, he stepped in when Sam stepped in at Leeds, and it's so lovely to have Tim Sherwood back. Welcome.
How you doing?
I'm good.
All good.
You?
Pleasure to be back, yeah.
Thanks for stepping in.
No problem.
You're with us for 3 weeks.
That's right, yeah. Is he away that long?
Oh, he needs a good break. He's been working hard.
Where is he?
No idea. He might just have his feet up at home, to be honest, Tim. He's just having a break. So we've got Tim back, and then we're also joined our guest this week. He is quite simply one of your favourite guests that we have. This is his 3rd time this season.
Patrick.
His 5th time in total. I mean, he's nearly as many as you, Tim, and you stood in for a good chunk. Would you like to introduce our guest?
Yeah. He's back by public demand, and it is Rene Meulensteen.
Welcome back.
How you doing, Rene?
Thanks for having me, Tim and Natalie, as usual. The 5th time in total. I mean, I thought I was getting an award last time, but no, it's always great to be back, and it's happy, and it's good to hear that the fans enjoy it.
We love the way you break down the game, and we will get the whiteboard out a little bit later, and we're going to get Rene and Tim, and it'll be a Spurs-focused whiteboard this time for what Rene describes as the worst whiteboard in football. But we will be getting it back out again because we've still got to get our money's worth.
Serves a purpose.
This week, Tim, I was just telling you, we got a mention in The Observer this week, the Observer newspaper, who said that No Tippy Tappy Football is a podcast for people who think the game has gone. And we're taking that as a compliment. We accept that from The Observer. So my first question to you both today is, has the game gone too far in a negative direction this season? Because Arnie Slot has said most of the games I see are not a joy to watch.
I think it's been a gradual. I understand where Arnie's coming from, I really do. But I'd have to say I've seen his team play and they're not great. You know, they don't excite me too much. So last season, yeah, we can obviously you win the league. But actually playing style, you know, it's not exactly Jurgen Klopp's side, is it? But, you know, to put that to one side, I agree with him. I just think that from a neutral's point of view, it's not entertaining to watch. Now, if you're from a Arsenal persuasion, you're happy with the set pieces and the long throws, or if your team succeeds by using them tactics, then you're happy with it. But to sit there on a Sunday afternoon and watch a neutral game when you've got no affiliation to any of the teams, you want to see them going toe-to-toe and getting at it. I don't think there's not enough Mavericks. There used to be so many world-class players in the Premier League. I don't think there are now. For me, it's took a backward step. But I think it's not just this season. I think it's been a gradual decline. I'm not sure we're ever going to get it back. Where are them world-class players? We're searching the world for them, and players are coming in for the 60s, 70s, £100 million. Back in the day, you know, they would have been, you know, £200 and £300 million, you know, if you're valuing them like that now. So it's the way the game's gone. I don't think it's just Arsenal. I don't think it's by any means anyone in the Premier League, and it's not their fault. It's not a crime, you know, to play for set pieces. I mean, a lot of managers wouldn't have done it in the past, but it's the way Mikel isn't no stone unturned. You know, set piece coaches who spend their time. I read this morning that the guy Arsenal gets a bonus every time they score from a dead ball. You know, so he's a rich man at the moment.
Well, yeah, and he got a nice bonus from the weekend as well, because obviously in the Arsenal-Chelsea game, three set-piece goals. Yeah. Are you watching, I mean, Arnie Slot's saying most games I see are not a joy to watch. I disagree with that, but for you, Rene, are you seeing joyful games?
Yes, I still do. I think it's got a bit over-exaggerated as well, at what Tim says as well, just because of the fact also that Arsenal is top of the league. You start to analyse it, and that stands out as a sore thumb, the goals they score from set pieces, and I'm sure they're playing for it. And fairly honest, you have to give them credit for what they do. They execute it because the opposition can't deal with it. But what Arteta has done, he has looked at it and he says, where is the percentage that can turn us and win us the league? where we've fallen short. Now, they've definitely identified, the set piece as one of the things. But no, I look at it, and I do agree totally with Tim. Where are the Mavericks? Where are these really skillful players that you really go to the stadium for and can do something unpredictability? Unpredictable, because unpredictability is hard to defend. It all starts with development. Grassroots. Listen, my expertise for coming to Man United was skill development. And the reason why they brought me in is because they felt, yes, they had all the kids coming, but they didn't have the right skill development in place, the structure. And that is the big problem of most of. I do think in the whole of football, the whole of the world, there's not enough technical coaches. There are not enough skill development coaches. When the kids come into the clubs with coaches where they can really teach them the techniques of the best players and make them, comfortable on the ball, etc. Which basically I did with all those young players when I came to United. Danny Welbeck was one of them, Tom Cleverley, Jesse Lingard, and so on, so on, so on, so forth. So when they come to that level to play at the first team, they have all the tools, they have all the attributes. You stick Danny Welbeck on the left wing, you don't have to tell him, can you beat him with a double scissor, because he's got it. Now, that is one of the biggest problems. That needs to be addressed. There's millions and millions of money going in the top of the pyramid of Premier League football, if you look at it. Like Tim says, they have to go and scout everywhere in the world to try to find players that still have it. It's crazy. I mean, in a country like England, where it's so, so popular, there should be, we got in Holland, we got these, these little Cruyff courts where kids can go and play and express themselves, and it's all based on on skills and who's better than the other. But that is one of the things that I think is lacking. Come back to the Premier League, I still see some really interesting games. I mean, even if you look to what Keith Andrews is doing with Brentford, the way that they play. And I'm sure that they set them up, that he sets them up. Come on, let's go. They play with intensity. They play with a drive. And there's plenty of other teams. So I think it's got a bit of over-exaggerated to basically cover all the teams like that, because still the Premier League is still a very, very good product, if you ask me.
Are we overcoaching kids then, do you think, in academies? Are we knocking that maverick out of them before they have a chance to realise they've got it?
If you go to academies now, certainly in England, it's full up with number 10s. There's no number 9s anymore. All the kids, and hence why you see the best players in England at the moment. You look at the national team; they've got in the number 10 position. There's a wealth of players there.
It's also part of the result of the Premier League, the monster that it has created, which is the financial monster. There's so much money going in. All the managers that come in, they're under pressure because all those clubs have ambition. And that filters down all the way to the Championship, to League One, to League Two, because League Two wants to go to League One wants to go to the Championship, and Championship wants to go to the Premier League. The managers are all under pressure, like Tim said. They want to put the trust in young up-and-coming players, which need time, because if you use a lot of young players, you get a different kind of performance curve. Yeah, it's not like this, and it's not like that. It's a little bit like this and a little bit like this and then like that. That's what young players do. But that is the big problem. If you go back to, and that is part of the problem in England. If you look at when Gareth Southgate was the national team manager, and we had this discussion with him at one point, he could only choose from 65 to 70 players. National team of England. But I do believe that the kids that come through, because like I said, they bleed the colour of the club. They bring that DNA right through. Man United have plenty of examples of that. Yeah, and that's what I've always liked as well. In that respect, with Sir Alex Ferguson, he was always prepared to give, young kid. We basically maybe haven't won FA Cup finals because of that, because he wanted to give young kids an opportunity to know what it's like to play in a semi-final or a final at Wembley. Yeah, you know what I mean. He says, that is part of the learning curve. But
But Rene, tell people how important it is not only to have them academy boys in the squad, in the team, but to have good teachers on the pitch, good examples for them boys to look up to. Not only from you coaching and Sir Alex Ferguson and the manager, but the players, the good professionals alongside them.
It's the most important thing. Because those peers in those group, they form characters and they create resilience as well, and they sometimes need to give them a tap on the back, say come on, or they need to get a kick, a kick up the backside sometimes. But massively important. But that's why it's so important you have good characters in that team where the rest knows who the leaders are and they can hang on to. This is basically one of the most important aspects in this moment in time for Spurs. To get out of this mess, you need characters.
Yeah.
You need characters to carry it and go on the on the front foot and help.
I heard Gary Neville say this week he's 90. I think it was 95, 96 was his first Premier League title, and I think the question was obviously talking about Arsenal. How nervous is it to win the first one? And Gary was like, well, it was quite easy for us because we had so many players in the squad still left over who had won it twice before.
Yeah.
So they showed them the way. So it was easier for them. Whereas Arsenal now, and certainly Sir Alex Ferguson had won it before, so they had that experience of the manager who's been there and done it. Whereas Arsenal now haven't got that experience with playing squad and management.
Yeah. I want to just jump back to, obviously, mentioning Sir Alex Ferguson there. It makes me think, if we, the start of the conversation was about boring football and Mikel Arteta, perhaps people just arguing that he perhaps has a negative influence on the Premier League this year because of the amount of set piece goals that they've had. Do you think, with Sir Alex Ferguson, would he have gone down if he thought the way to win the league was to score by set piece goals? Would he have done it, or do you think that he would have stuck to more of a we'll score more goals than you in an entertaining way philosophy?
Definitely that, because he always emphasised the two things he always emphasised. One, first thing he would say to every player is that you can be as good as you want, but if you don't work hard, you don't earn anything. Work hard is a quality. It's the first quality everybody needs to have. And the second thing would, you are playing for Man United because you are here for a reason, because of the good player that you are, and we want to show that. I want to be entertained. I feel we have an obligation to entertain every fan, that's in the stadium and the ones that are watching us on TV. That was his philosophy. That's why there was always that bit of almost call of cavalier style when things were not going for us and we were pushing for something at the end of the games. We just did something, changed something or whatever, but we were going for it. Of course, we looked after, set pieces because we had fantastic set piece deliverers, and we obviously had, strength in the air with Vidic and with Ferdinand and other players. So we would use that, but it wasn't overemphasized. With Arsenal, it's overemphasized. They 100% think if we get 6 corners, we should score once. That probably they're thinking.
I bet it's higher.
Maybe higher, I don't know. But they definitely think about it. Listen, if any opportunity arises, try to get a corner.
Yeah. How long would you take per week on the set pieces?
On the set piece, to be fairly honest, not that long, Tim. I mean, if in case that we had to deal with an opposition that would really focus on that. A Bolton on the Owen Coyle.
Stoke
With Tony Pulley with a long throw within. Yes, we would actually, listen, this is how we're going to set up. This is how we're going to structure ourselves.
Yeah.
Right, we have front mark, you know what I mean? We had somebody dropping on the line if the ball was headed to the back, making sure that Adwin had opportunity to come and collect it. That type of stuff. And the same with corners, but it was more like, and that is what I always liked with those players with that level. It was know your job, do your job. That's what I said. These are non-negotiables, in defensive. Defensive strategies are tactics. You press or you don't, you go in the block. Same with set pieces. Non-negotiables. Know your job, do your job. That was it.
Yeah.
But what I liked about those players, you only had to tell them once and you do it.
Yeah.
It's hardly ever, because how often do you see in set pieces, you look back and you think, who's not doing his job?
Yeah.
There's always somebody who falls asleep or picking the wrong player or it's not, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That hardly
They're
ever
not
happens.
accountable anymore.
Yeah.
I do remember a game, I'm not sure what year it was, but I do remember when Sir Alex Ferguson did benefit massively with the Bruce goals. The 2 goals from set pieces. I think one was recycled. Pallister went wide and crossed it, and Bruce scored. It was against Sheffield Wednesday.
Yeah.
So he has benefited from that. I remember one was a
Some
Bruce.
memory that, by the way, Tim.
No, I remembered it because it was Kiddo on the pitch, wasn't it? We were on his knees. But I remember a Bruce header, and it was like the longest. It was like 16 yards. Yeah. He heads it straight over the top, and I remember Brian Robson smashing someone who was on the post. Mate, I remember them. So he has benefited from set pieces, but he wouldn't. That's not his game plan.
Yeah, but no. But over time, if you look at Manchester United, had some fantastic deliverers as well.
Yeah.
Look at David Beckham,
the
Ryan
best.
Giggs. They put it there wherever you want, no problem.
Yeah.
Right, we're going to move on, and in a minute we are going to talk about Spurs, of course, because Tim remains having the highest Premier League win percentage of the last 10 Spurs managers at 59%. Well done, Tim.
That's high.
Yeah. We're also going to move on. We're going to talk about Manchester United, of course, with Rene also.
You should have gone back in, Tim. You should have gone back in.
Oh, no one asked me. My phone's still the same number, really.
We're also going to get Tim's response to some of the unhappy Man United fans after some of his comments about Benjamin Šeško, and obviously Rene's thoughts on Michael Carrick as possible permanent manager of Manchester United. But first, a quick thank you to our sponsors, Boyle Sports, of course. And don't forget, new Boyle Sports customers can get a bet £10, get £40 in free bets offer, plus a 50% bet builder boost. That's Newcastle versus Manchester United on Wednesday. 18 plus, T's and C's applied. Please gamble responsibly. Right, let's move on to Spurs, Tim, because Igor Tudor said a wonderful quote over the weekend. He says that Spurs are lacking in attack, midfield and defence.
That's right. And it probably explains where they are in the league. And they was in 17th place last season. I think I've said many times, I wouldn't have got rid of Ange Postecoglou, in my opinion. There's a reason why they finished 17th in the league, because he prioritised the Europa League and he won it. They sacked a winner. They brought in Thomas Frank, and having Ange goes, I wouldn't have got rid of Thomas Frank. The reason they got rid of Thomas Frank is because it was a toxic nature of the fans. They got him the sack in the end. Listen, he contributed towards that because he didn't win a football match, and especially at home, it was very, very poor. So they made another change. So they have made decisions. They haven't sat on their hands. They've decided to make a change, but it's very strange to make a change, in my opinion. And I don't think I really believe they didn't want to make a change. I just think because of the noise from the fans was so strong that they had to. Igor Tudor's gone in there. When he first comes in, walks in the door, he does his first press conference. I listened to it carefully. 100% guarantee we will stay in the Premier League. Now, a week, 2 games on, now he's making some negative vibes coming out. I don't like it. I don't like the vibes because everyone listens to that. It breeds anxiety towards the fans. I know a lot of Tottenham fans, and they're getting nervous by the man's voice at the moment because he's obviously gone in there. He's looked at what he's got. He's looking at the heart. He's looking at the ability, looking at the options, what he has. And he's decided it's going to be the hardest job he's ever had. That's what he said. That's his quote. It's the hardest job I've ever gone into as a firefighter and as a manager. Now, I don't want to keep listening to Tottenham fans or anyone talk about Tottenham's injuries. We know they've got injuries, and we know they've had them more than most. They've got a group of players. I can argue. I can throw that argument in when they're playing the Arsenal. We'll give them a mulligan in that game, even though they never showed any fight. And by the way, they're playing against Wolves before that, Arsenal. We'll give them a 2-goal start and still come back. So, you wouldn't have given Wolves. They never surrendered. They kept going. They kept fighting. Tottenham never. North London derby, unacceptable. Then they play against Fulham. You cannot argue about the injuries when they're playing against Fulham. You cannot argue about the injuries when they're playing against Palace at home, which is the next fixture. Then they go Liverpool away, and then they get the massive cup final at home to Nottingham Forest. I'm not buying the injury situation. They've had a couple of players back. I think they've got enough in their squad now to be able to win. And the more the manager talks about injuries and about players coming back, it sends a negative vibe to the ones who are actually in the team. Because I'll be thinking, someone's going in, the manager's talking about someone who's injured, do we need them back? And he's playing in my position. I'm thinking from on the pitch, when I'm there, I'm thinking, well, what about me? Yeah. Why don't you trust me? I can do a job. So, yeah, he's got huge problems. I mean, I still think they're going to be okay, but I think my heart is ruling my head at the moment. This game against Palace is so big. I mean, it's just incredibly huge football match because I think they're out of it, Palace, but there is a chance to maybe claw them back in, but they need them 3 points. And when I look at the teams below, like Forest have lost a couple of games now, West Ham are showing a little bit of fight. I still think it might be West Ham who drop away. Boyle Sports won't be happy with that, will they?
No.
Is the game at Spurs?
At Spurs, which don't help. It doesn't really help. They can't win at home, Rene.
But if you go in as a firefighter, this new manager comes in, what's the first thing you need to do in your dread? The way that you present yourself to those players. Yeah. The first day in, is that those players want to walk out that door and think, I trust that man. He get us going. No worries, I trust that man. And you need to galvanize. You need to close the ranks. Those ranks are not closed. Yeah. No, that is the big problem already. Yeah. And like I said, you need to also, first of all, paint the picture as it actually is, to be really clear, because this is where we sit in the Premier League. They're still in the Champions League. Exactly. They're still in the Champions League. different competition, different thing, different atmosphere, different anything. And who knows? You might win that, you carry on, you go on and to bigger and better things. But let's address this. How do we address this? Well, first of all, again, it's simple. Make sure we don't concede goals. Start with that. Start to get your defensive priorities right, the base of things right. And do we have enough players up front that we really think that we can hurt opposition? Do you think, you ask Simons and you ask all the other players, with Richarlison and all them, yeah, Kulusevski is a big loss, because I think he has been a big loss. But still, Sri Lanka can score goals and all them, as long as we give him, as long as we give him the service and everything. And you need to make him start to believe again, because if they go with what the fans are saying and thinking, then everybody goes in that negative funnel, and you never come out of that.
Yeah, but what the fans are thinking is a reflection of what the manager's
Yes, 100%. That's why I said he's not closing the. Yeah. Also, the fans should have thought, like that guy.
I like him. I did. When he first came in, I thought, oh, I'm having him. He looks a real threat. I mean, it's like 6'4", looks the part. You think you wouldn't mess around with him. Yeah. I was hoping behind closed doors, he's got his arm around Xabi Simons, telling him how good he is. You're the next Luka Modric. Not that he believes that, but it doesn't matter. Just tell him what he wants to hear. Yeah, you know, exactly. and not only him, with other players you think you're going to need, because he ain't going to be there at the end of the season. Let's face it.
When you were at Spurs, you made a conscious effort with youth. There's specific examples. For example, dropping Salada and bringing Harry Kane in as well. Did you watch Celtic Rangers at the weekend? Because my dad phoned, the daily catch-up that I have with my dad generally talks about the games that he's watched that day. He'd watched it and he specifically said to me, that Mikey Moore's good from Spurs. Why have they loaned him out?
They loaned him out because there's no pathway for him. So I think it's a great pathway there for him to gain some experience. No one fancies him at the moment. They would argue and say, well, we'll just send him out to gain experience. But I would argue, well, he's better than probably what you've got. So bring him back and play games, because not only would he be better, in my opinion, than some of the players what you've signed and are in your squad, you also had a shocking injury crisis. So not only Mikey Moore, Vukovic should have been brought back from Hamburg, in my opinion. He's played pretty much every game. He scores about 5 goals as well. He's a big centre-back. Phillips, the boy they signed from Blackburn, who's on loan, he plays every week at Stoke. He should have been brought back. Not brought back for no necessary reason, but brought back to play or put in. Now you say, well, they're in a relegation battle. Yeah, they are, but it's still in a relegation battle with the group was playing at the moment. And it would have solved a few injury problems rather than throwing kids onto the bench who would never, 17-year-olds who would never been anywhere near it. Give these guys a little opportunity. So not only Mikey, I'm not saying he's going to be the answer, but I'm saying that he might be. So I don't know why they didn't make that executive decision. And it's probably why it's an executive decision rather than a footballing decision. Now, if there was a footballing person there, he might have said, you know what, why don't we just call them back? We're capable of calling him back. Get Vukovic back, get Mikey Moore back, go and get Phillips. And thicken up the squad.
This new guy, Igor Tudor, he probably doesn't even know.
No one know.
He probably doesn't even know about those players and what they are and where they are. You know what I mean? That's also always a bit of a risk that you bring somebody in that has never worked in the Premier League. Because the Premier League is a different animal from any league in the world. It's a different animal. Different animal. But
that choice got to be taken from above him, hasn't it? Surely, 100%. From the sporting director.
Yeah, 100%.
He's got to say, look, we're struggling with injuries at the moment. I'm going to bring
what
three players
they've looked at, and I'm sure that Sam must have been on that list as well. They looked at the firefighter list.
Yeah, Sam and
Harry
Redknapp,
he
apparently.
had this record that wherever he went in, he won. He won the first whatever games that he's been in Juventus in the big club and sort of stuff. They looked at that and said, well, that's the right guy for us. But you need to take other things in consideration
but
as well.
This job was, for me, this is the same job as like Juve being in a relegation battle.
Yeah.
When he took over Juve, they're never in a relegation battle. They were either in Europa League spots and he can push them to the Champions League. Similar to what Michael Carrick's done at Man United. This is different. The downside is catastrophic. And he's only ever been in one relegation battle, and that's Udinese. And he was in there for 4 games. And when he went in there, they wasn't in the relegation zone, and they stayed out of it. So fair play. I mean, he's done his job wherever he's been. But he's never had a like for like this.
No.
I mean, this is the upside is there's no upside. Because even if he finishes 12th, Rene, he ain't getting patted on the back for finishing 12th at Tottenham. He's not getting a job on the back of that. He's only getting a job if he wins the Champions League. Like you mentioned, they're still in that. But the downside, why would you want your fingerprints all over that?
Do you think they survive this year, Premier League? And then
I think they do. I think they do by default because I think there are more points than West Ham at the end of it.
Yeah. I think they do as well.
Okay, so you mentioned Michael Carrick, Manchester United. They're 6 wins from 7 games in charge so far. Last time we had you on, Rene, was just before Michael Carrick. So how impressed have you been with the job that he's done so far?
Very, very impressed, and not a surprise in some ways because I know Michael fairly well. Obviously, I worked with him when he was a player. He was always, a top professional, and he went about his job meticulously, and he's sure he does exactly the same as a manager. Obviously, I visited him once, and when he was still manager at Middlesbrough, because my son was there working with him, so I had a day there with him, and just could see a little bit how he was going about things. Had good staff around him, with obviously this case, he's got Steve Holland with him that does probably most of the sessions. But I said that on this show before as well. Natalie has said it really doesn't take much to fix it, and I think Michael is a common sense guy, intelligent person. He knows how the game is played. He knows what it means to play at Old Trafford. He knows what the fans demand and everything, etc., etc. But if you look at it, I did a bit of analysis yesterday when I knew he was coming on here, and I thought that's interesting because sometimes you get a little bit blinded by the blankets of the result and victory. But, City was a really good start. You know what I mean? I think with Arsenal, they came back really well, but it got away with it and that was, I think, I found it a bit strange that Arsenal let that slip away. Then you had the last minute winners, against Fulham, a last minute goal against West Ham. So they have wrote their luck a little bit as well, where they are. But gradually, you can see improvements. In terms of the way how they set up, they were far better structured. Defensively, they know a better job defensively. But I've always felt we were very big in our time under Sir Alex Ferguson that we wanted to have an authority in the game through the possession that we had. We decide how we play. We decide the rhythm. We decide when we change the rhythm. And I felt over time, and especially on the previous management, if you look at most of the games that United played, United had 40% or less possession. How is that possible? Even at Old Trafford. But under Michael, you can see that getting better, more possession, more better percentages in terms of pass completion. So they're looking after the ball better and the movement is better. And you look at the front 5, including, Bruno Fernandes, Ahmad, Mbuemo, and Cunha, now Sesko scoring. They got goals. Mm-hmm. And, obviously I know that Tim had an opinion about Sesko, but we all know, and Tim knows better than anything, every striker relies on service. Mm-hmm. And that is what United haven't had for years. They were play, overplay, no balls in the box. The last goal that Sesko scored, fantastic cross from Bruno Fernandes. 100% sure this is something that Michael Carrick brought in. When we get in good wide areas, get it in the box. Get numbers in the box and get it in the box, because that's where you score goals. So that overplaying aspect is gone out the window a little bit. It's really but far more effective. Yes, very impressed with him.
Yeah, I mean, you weren't impressed with Sesko at the start. His first half performance versus Burnley, he went on to score in the second half. But obviously the last few games, your opinion's changing.
Absolutely. And it weren't just the Burnley game where I wasn't impressed. I was judging him on what I've seen him under Rúben Amorim. I mean, even the most staunch Man United fans would have to admit it weren't great. And I thought it was a Weghorst all over again, in my opinion. I just thought, he's a lot of money. Yeah, I'll give him a little bit of time. I think he's 23 years of age now or next month. I went early. Now I owe the kid an apology because Michael Carrick has all of a sudden put a battery charger in him. And like Rene's saying, he's playing to his strengths. Now he's even when he's coming off the bench, it was the injury to Dorgu is the reason why he's getting a lot more opportunities now. And he's another one who was underachieving. Under Rúben Amorim, I was thinking, Dorgu, that wing back, bang average. Now, all of a sudden, with Michael Carrick, it's completely different. Mm. I think this boy's got ability. Šeško, some of the goals now he scored. I'm judging him on what I saw in the early part of the season under Rúben Amorim. I'm judging him on not having a character stand up and want to take a penalty at Grimsby. But now, I'm seeing the boy with his chest out. I saw him run and score that goal with the 3 of them linked up, the 3 new signings at Everton with pace. All of a sudden I was thinking, who is this kid? I don't recognise him. It's just burst from like one end of the field to the other. Looked like he couldn't run previously. Now he looks like he's an Olympic sprinter. And he's got the coolness of mind at the end of that to finish it. The finish against West Ham, the last minutes when he comes on, he's coming on off the bench to impact the game with real attitude, fantastic attitude. And he gets a start at the weekend. Wasn't fantastic in the game, but it's a great goal. He gets in front. He's got the service. Bruno's been pushed forward into the 8. Everyone's playing in positions what suits them. And Michael's saying to Bruno, and Bruno don't need telling anyway, he's watching this boy in training, he's thinking, when he's on the pitch, we need service into him. We get the ball in there. He's got a knack of coming behind and in front at the right time. And that's what you saw against West Ham with his feet, and you saw at the weekend against Palace with his head. It was a wonderful header. So, yeah, I said he shouldn't be anywhere near a Man United shirt. I will go back on that and just say, I'm going to give him time. But I maintain, he's at the moment, he's still entitled to develop, but he's not a Cole, a York, a Van Nistelrooy, a Van Persie. That was where I've been brought up on. The Rooneys, the Teddy Sheringham's. He's not that. But has he got an opportunity to be that? Absolutely. I'm willing to give him the opportunity. Listen, he don't need me. I just say what I see when I see it. And when I saw him, not on that one-off game against Burnley, but what I've seen previously, he was not being shone in the correct light.
Yeah.
And I have to give him a little bit of a mulligan.
Well, his minutes under Amorim, goals per minute under Amorim were 520, minutes per goal since Amorim, 49.7, which I just find so fascinating, Rene. Can you put that simply down to excellent man management by Carrick, or does it shine an even more negative sort of light on Rúben Amorim and his obsession with his tactics?
Both. There's no ways about it because numbers don't lie.
Yeah.
Simple as that. But if I work with Tim as a striker, and I know he's coming from this kind of background, not scoring, not firing, no service, and like as Tim says, you put him in the right position for a start. Clear instructions to the players. This is how we're going to get the best out of everybody. You know, this is how we're going to get the best out of Ahmad. Give him the ball, let him dribble, let him do his thing. And boom, same thing. Right, Cunha, again, on the ball, strong, let him run, make runs in behind. Sesko's quick, this and that, the other. So where can we use him? Yes, he's not bad in terms of link-up play, can bring other players into play. But what I've been impressed with, the goals that he has scored, you analyse every single one of them. They're high-quality goals. High-quality goals. You know, the movement is good, like Tim says, at the right time, coming in front or behind the opposition. But even the goal against Burnley in the second half that he scored, you know, on the run, you know, great goals. But it is definitely a combination of good man management of Michael Carrick, good coaching from everybody. Because, again, they've put the round pegs in round holes, and put everything in the right place, and off you go, boys. I mean, it's, for me, like I said, I've envisioned that this was going to happen, and if it could have been Michael Carrick, if Ole Gunnar Solskjaer would have come back in, he would have probably done exactly the same. Yeah. Any other manager with a bit of common sense would have. Yeah. This is the way we're going to do it. It's not a magic formula.
But Rene's improved the ones who was there already.
Yeah.
I mean, Luke Shaw, Harry Maguire, Kobe Mainoo couldn't have been further away from the England squad.
Yeah.
When the Rúben Amorim, all of a sudden now you'd have to say they're probably on the plane.
Yeah. On the plane,
on the very, very close to it. Why wouldn't you take Harry Maguire at the moment? Luke Shaw might be one where you think, well, he might pick up and he's injured again or he's ill at the weekend. But if he finishes the season he finds the game so easy. He's one of the best left backs we've got. I mean, and he might get in there by default for what else have we got?
Yeah.
And let's not forget, Thomas Tuchel's not building for the future here. I know he's signed a new contract now. He wants to win now. Yeah. And if he don't win, he knows he's fouled. And Kobe Mainoo, how on earth? I was looking from the outside. I obviously cameos of Kobe, and when he played for England, I was thinking, whoa, this boy's got everything. They can do whatever you want. And then Rúben Amorim was saying, well, if Bruno plays, he can't play. Straight away, if I'm Kobe, I'm thinking, well, where am I going to play? The best player, I don't even play in his position.
Yeah.
Push him forward. Common sense. Pushed Bruno forward, got Kobe in there. Yeah. All of a sudden, Casemiro looks like he's back. You know, he's got some legs around him. Yeah. It's just common sense that makes it. And if you're the sporting director, if you're my old pal, Jason Wilcox, you must be thinking, oh, please, Michael, turn it around. Because I was looking at the signings. You know, look, Cunha showed glimmers and so did Mbeumo, who was a little bit better. But you're thinking, oh, we're going to come under pressure here. We spent a lot of money. All of a sudden, Michael's gone in there. He's almost put a charger in all of them and said, look, go and play. And now it's like, see, that's what happens. That's why sporting directors, chairmen make changes. They make changes to the management for that reason. But sometimes when they keep changing, you see no better.
Well, they got a big, very, very big thing ahead of them, Tim. because if Michael keeps carrying on and keeps doing what he's doing, and if they're still thinking about bringing somebody else in, because it was very clearly communicated, no, he's just interim, just only going to stay, and that's one of the reasons why Michael straight away said, yeah, fine, no problem, I'll do it, until the end of the season, fine, no problem, you find your successor.
Yeah.
But this scenario is exactly the same how Ollie started.
Yeah.
He won the first 9 games or something, you know what I mean, or something like that. So this is exactly the same. This is history repeating itself. Now, they have to be really, really careful, because obviously you know how it goes, because what he's done, he's settled everything down. He talks sense. All the players, all the top players know that. Casemiro knows that. He was being on, with Real Madrid and all that. They know what good managers talk about and how they address things and how they, Bruno Fernandes and all of them, Harry Maguire, all that. It's not a surprise. Now, suddenly, you take him out of that position again. And there's this uncertainty, because who will come in? And what is going to happen next? And if you then again start on the wrong foot, you're back to square one.
But he's always going to be tarnished with that Solskjaer brush, isn't he?
Yeah.
No, but it might be different. It just might be. I mean, if he now takes them to where we think they're going to be, which they would have wished when he first comes in to be in the Champions League, which I think is pretty nailed on, in my opinion.
Yeah.
If he does that, and then they make a change, and it's not a Luis Enrique, or it's not a superstar like a Ancelotti or whoever the big name is. Yeah. If they go and bring in, I don't think it'd be Oliver Glasner, but someone like that, there'll be uproar. I think they can almost sell it if it's a Luis Enrique or if it's a...
Well, I think that's your only 2 options, isn't it?
Really? Otherwise, Thomas Tuchel would have been an option, but obviously he's staying with England now. I think it's almost impossible for them not to give him the job. I think they have to.
If you would ask me, if you would put me on a spot, would you? Obviously, again, everything goes and revolves around results and performances. But you can see that is getting, and it's getting better. Even you can see that. I can see little glimpses of the game that I think, it's worked, and that's going better. But I also know how Michael is as a person. Yeah, and he's a very stable person. Yeah, he doesn't get carried away. He's calm. He doesn't, you know what I mean. And
was Ollie not the same though?
Ollie was different, I think, in sort of personalities. They're both obviously very, very likable guys. Yeah, I really do. I think they're both top professionals, absolutely both. And obviously, Ollie did his stuff in Norway with Molde and was successful there. I do think personality-wise, there's a difference. I think maybe Michael would carry just a little bit more weight and everything, like with his demeanor.
Yeah. You're talking to a group of players and they will smell it. If you're not correct or you're saying something, then it will take no time for them to suss you out. But I think he's authentic, Michael. I'm not saying Ollie wasn't. I just think he looks to me like he's commanding. It looks like, without being a shouter, just looks like he's measured in his decision making. And I think that was. I always felt that when he was at Middlesbrough, and he's not gone in. You cannot have a Man United manager going in there think they're doing Man United a favour. And I think with the other fella, Rúben Amorim, I think that's what we had. I mean, I didn't want to go in mid-season, not all this nonsense. Get on the plane, get over to Man United and sign the contract as quickly as you can. Now, I think Michael will still have to think about this long term. And people will think, well, no, he'd take it straight away. Yeah, he probably will in the end. But I still think he will have to sit down with his family and whoever he listens to and still have a conversation about, is this the right job for me long term? I don't think it's a foregone conclusion. If they offer it to him, he takes it. I think he will, but I just think he will be measured in that decision even. And if they don't take him, which I hope they don't, I hope Tottenham do.
Well, that was the next thing I was going to say. But I bumped into him in Wilmslow in one of the parks and just had a quick chat with him. And I was asking him, I says, what's happening with you? Are you going back in or whatever? I'm not too in a rush, man. He says, there's been things for me that come and no, I'm not really, other managers jump straight away back in. And it's now, I don't have that at all, obviously. And when you do start to get your manager's job, it's 24/7. It's constantly, and there's so many other things you need to manage, that you can think of. Now he can really focus a little bit, just basically on, he doesn't have to really think about recruitment yet because he knows I'm done at the end of the season. So let's get the best out of this group, get them into the Champions League or finish as high as I can. start to play again a brand of football that is what the fans are used to with Manchester United, and get those results. And that's how we sort of thinking. So it's a sort of a narrow window in terms of not too much that what's going around it, which you do have to do when you do take the job full time, because suddenly there's many more other things. But at this moment in time, he's still in his honeymoon period, because he's obviously done very, very well. He wins. He hasn't really had, a defeat to deal with, and maybe rather 2 defeats. Because I always say, if you do take over the new things, always bear in mind you need to try to neutralize the old habits don't die, because that is, if you're not careful, if for whatever reason old habits creep back in, and then you're back to the same thing. People stop working, you know what I mean? These non-negotiables. Yeah. So that energy, I mean, working hard and keep it going and defending and doing all that. Because as soon as that got covered by all the results and everybody's great, and suddenly somebody's not tracking back. Yeah. You need to be really, really sharp on that. Yeah. And those habits don't creep back in.
The good thing about Michael is he's got habits of succeeding as well, because he remembers, he knows the environment what he's gone back into. Do you think that's really important?
Very, very, very important, because like I said, he knows the whole club inside out. He knows he's lived it. He lived it himself. He knows what it was like to step on Old Trafford and be successful and be a force. And sometimes we had these conversations. I had these conversations, and I said to Michael, when you're playing there with Scholes, he says, "Man, it's so easy. It's so easy with those players around me. So easy." And he was basically our safety net, you know what I mean? Because we let Scholes do his things and all this and that, the other, and Giggs run forward and all that. But he was the one always. And I always said, and there's a big compliment, it says, you miss Michael Carrick when he's not there. Yeah. When he's just playing, he just does his thing. He's never. He probably is never going to be mentioned as player of the match or whatever it is. But what he does is so important. Yeah. So important for all the other players.
I just think it's really, whenever I've played against him, and obviously when you've managed up against him, when you watch him play, he was always available, and he would always drop off the pace. So they could, if they got in a little bit of trouble, they come out to him, and he would change the play. But he was like a pressure valve. Just release the pressure, and then he would go restore order somewhere else.
Well, that's what he's done now.
Build again.
It's exactly what he's done now.
Exactly what he's doing.
Yeah. And you've got, looking at Man United's form, looking at perhaps the inconsistent form of some of the other teams around them. Obviously that shock result for Villa on Friday. Mm-hmm. You've got to be thinking they're going to finish third, and that would be a remarkable turnaround. I think
it was a huge game this week with Chelsea Villa or Villa Chelsea. I think that is a game. But I agree. I just think I think they're nailed on, Man United now. It will go to the wire. I think Chelsea are pushing Liverpool. Villa have got a little gap there.
But even if Man City would stumble in one of the games and they lose, and Man United keep winning, they're only 3 points off Man City.
Benny,
sorry,
stop.
I'm just sorry, Natalie. It's just this thing.
It's a fact.
Because at this moment in time, when I look at Man City, I normally will look at Manchester City, and I could see after 5 to 10 minutes, 2-3-0 win, no problem at all. I don't see that fluency at this moment. This overwhelming confidence in this City, in this City team. No, I still see there's vulnerabilities there. I still see that certain teams, if they hit the right notes, I really like to see, especially if Real Madrid can turn up with the best players, because I like to see how City's going to deal with Vinicius.
They get beat again last night.
Huh?
Real Madrid.
Yeah.
Who did they play?
Getafe. Getafe.
Yeah. Never.
Yeah.
But we've already beaten them at the Bernabeu this season.
Yeah. But you think it would take a lot, wouldn't it, for Man United to win it now, because Arsenal would have to drop points as well as Man City.
Oh yeah, well that's.
But if he wins the league, Man United have got absolutely zero chance of keeping him, because he'd be Real Madrid manager.
yeah. I mean, I tell you what. I mean, yeah. But I thought you said it before, because that was one of the things I was alluding to when I spoke to Michael. With Spurs, obviously, because I thought, maybe that could be a really good.
That's a good fit.
That would be a good fit. But again, what you need to, because that the club is not very well run at the moment. Yeah, Tim, is it? No. So what you need, Dennis, you need to make sure you got the really, really good staff around you. And secondly, whether it's a director of football or a technical director, that needs to be aligned. If that's not aligned, then you got no.
But you know as well as I do, you're never as strong as when you first go in.
Yeah,
if they're courting you and they want him, he's got to set demands. He's got to say, "I'm coming in. I'll come in, but this has to be in place. I need to be assured that I'm going to make the footballing decisions." I listen to people talk now and say Sir Alex Ferguson and Arsene Wenger and all these managers, they're a thing of the past. They cannot control everything now. Nonsense. They don't want to control everything. Yeah. You deal with the commercial side. You deal with the media side. I'll talk when I have to, what I'm obliged to do. You look at Unai Emery. Why are they doing so well? Because he runs that whole club. Inside and out, recruitment, whoever comes in there, whether they're going out, whether they're coming in, he understands the financial restraints of the club, which is very important for a manager to be able to do. But he needs to be in charge. He cannot be dictated to by a sports scientist guy who's telling him that you can't train that long and because of this and that, because the sporting director has said that we're run by the science now rather than the football side. Who's coming into the club? I need to be in charge of that, even if it's one player. I want to be the one who's saying, I want him. Can I have him? If I can't have him, can I have this one? They don't want to run everything. Just control the football side. And if you let the managers, not the head coaches, I don't know why they call them different names, because he's a head coach, Unai Emery, but we all know he's a manager. And why wouldn't you give him the keys? He took that club, Villa, to where they are now. Yeah. Why wouldn't you trust him with every footballing decision?
Absolutely. It's like Sam's right back, Tim.
No, but
I've heard Sam say that many times.
No, but I can't. The game's not changed. The clubs have changed. The media attention around the clubs with social media as well is huge. The spotlight on them. The stadiums have got better. The training grounds have got better. But the fundamental is the manager and the coaches taking the players onto the pitch and getting the best out of them.
Yeah.
And if it works on the pitch and everyone's happy on the pitch and you're winning, then your commercial side will be winning as well. And the media stuff is easy when you're winning football matches.
A couple of other Man United points, things that have come up, Rene. It looks like Harry Maguire is going to get a new contract to extend it beyond the summer, which again, a couple of years ago, I can't imagine we'd have been saying. Do you think that'd be a good move for Harry and for Manchester United?
Well, definitely for Harry, for sure. Because Harry is what, 33? I think. I think it's his birthday soon. I have to say, because I've always been a little bit skeptical, about, because if you see it in the grand scheme of things of the centre backs that United have had in the past, I would think, name your best five, would he fit in there? Possibly not. That's my personal opinion. But
that's the same with Sesko and mine. I mean, we were living in the past, aren't we? We had some sensational centre backs and centre forwards.
Yeah, but no, we're not living in the past, Tim. It's the standards that we used to.
Yeah,
that's it.
That's what I'm saying. That's all I remember.
So what I'm saying is, but listen. One thing is with Harry, he's a top professional, because if you look at his time at Man United, when he got bombed out by Erik ten Hag, he's never complained. He kept on training and he worked his way back in the team. Yeah. If you see him now again, how important he is for Michael Carrick and how he's doing, whoever he plays next to, because he's obviously very, very important. So credit to that. So it's important for Man United to decide, okay, how is that shaping up for the future? Because Harry Maguire is not a long-term signing, is it? No. You know what you get, you know what he's going to give you. But there's also plenty of examples where I think he's fallen a little bit short in games where it cost Man United. Yeah. So that is the balancing act.
Yeah, you're not going to ever defend on the halfway line with Harry. Yeah, if you ask him to do that, that's why Michael's, he's dropped him off, because he knows Harry's back in there. He's got Martinez alongside him. I like him. Mm-hmm. He's undersized, but you have a go. You have a fight. You got Luke Shaw and you got Darlow on that side. But what we talked about earlier about the players on the pitch making the others better, the likes of Euro and Heaven, they're going to benefit from having Harry Maguire there. Not only in match days, but in training as well, because he will make them better. It's a big decision. Maybe a 1-year deal. I'm not sure what the options are elsewhere. But look, there's some centre halves. I can think of one at Tottenham who Man United might go for.
Did you say undersized a minute ago? Is that your description of short?
Well, he's undersized for a centre back, isn't he? I mean, in his game, he'll leap, he'll jump, but I mean, where is he?
I like that description.
5'11" or 5'10" or
that made me smile. I like that. I want to pull Harry Maguire up on something from the weekend, though, because I mean, he's not alone in the Premier League for feigning injury, impact, fouls, whatever you want to call it. There was an incident at the weekend where he pretended that he was kicked in the head. As we sit at home and we scream at the TV and go, there's 1 million cameras on this game. We can see. Why are they doing it when we can all see?
We're not thinking about it at the time. I mean, it's something he would never have done when he first started his career. But it's something he's picked up because it's gamesmanship, whether we like it or we don't. you try and get every advantage for your team. That's what Harry tried.
I don't know. If he's in your team, you're ripping him when he comes in, surely. He's in the changing room.
Depends
surely.
if he's earned me a penalty or a free kick where we scored from. I'm telling him that. I used to say to the players, listen, it sounds like you're cheating, but I say to him, if there's contact and you're in the box, go down. Because you have to make the referee's decision up.
I hate that, Tim.
You have to.
I hate
Because
it,
if you do not, then the referee won't give it. You have to convince him. It's like the North London derby with Gabriel, the little hand in the back. He was as if like a train's running to the back of him, the way he jumped. But he buys the foul. If he doesn't, it's an equaliser.
Yeah. But I mean, the days before VAR, yes, because then you put all the decision making in the referee's mind, and he has to make that decision. And you can be fooled because there were some really good ones. So Ashley Young springs to mind. You know what I mean? He must have what do you call it? A license to fly a plane because he was. But nowadays with VAR, because you're going to look at it and is there any contact and all that. Except with penalties, it's always a matter of was he brought down or did he choose to go down?
Yeah,
that's always the thing to weigh it up to some extent, and how much contact was there. But talking about contact, I mean the silliness. I think what's going on. I don't know what you think about it, Tim. But if you look, we had a set pieces with Arsenal and all that. What the heck is going on in the boxing? It's like a boxing a fight, nowadays. And I mean, anywhere else on the pitch, it's a foul.
Yeah. Right.
It's a foul. Yeah. And they just hold each other and they push and they grab each other by the neck and all. I think it's absolutely ridiculous. Yeah. Absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We say that a lot. Yeah.
Huh?
Completely agree.
Anywhere
else on the pitch,
especially when they're not looking at the ball.
Yeah, the corner was there, I find that a real negative development.
Yeah.
In and around football games, I really don't like it. It's a good thing.
Right, my last Man United question before we get the whiteboard out, because of course we're talking about sporting directors, football directors. I don't know what his exact title is. Your former teammate Jason Wilcox obviously is that at Manchester United. So get into his brain for a second, and I'd like one name from each of you, one player that you think he should go out, Man United should go out in the summer to buy, because they're gonna finish in the top four. But how do they become title contenders?
Realistic ones.
Yes. Well, Casemiro's reportedly suggesting they get Bruno Guimaraes to be his, which I'd be devastated about.
Good shout. Need someone like that. Game controller. I would go Adam Wharton. I like him. Him. I think he's ready for the step up. He's good at Blackburn. He's gone to Palace. He's ticked that box internationally. Because he controls the game. He controls the ball. He's similar to a Michael, really, in possession. I'm not sure about getting around the pitch a little bit, but I'm sure he can get around the pitch more than Casemiro at the moment.
Oh. I have to disappoint you because that's exactly who I would bring. And I've said it so often, and not only
I think you said it last time you were with us as well.
100%. Not only that, because he always looks forward, always, and he's not afraid to thread it through. You know what I mean? Which really causes problems for opposition. I like him a lot. I really like him a lot.
He assists the assister.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. The pre-assist.
He would make Fernandes sick of the ball.
Yeah.
Oh, he'd make me sick of the ball as well. I hope he doesn't go there. But I do hope for the sake of all we've got quite a few Blackburn Rovers fans that listen. I hope for the sake of all of them that Blackburn have some sort of sell on clause for Adam Wharton.
Well, they've got more things to worry about. Just staying in the league.
Yes, very much.
Can you imagine two of my teams, one in the Championship and one in League One? I mean,
oh, Tim.
You can't think
about.
No. Right, we are going to get the whiteboard out now. So we've got our tactics board out again. If you're listening as a podcast, you might just want to jump over to YouTube and have a little watch of this section as well. So, of course, as we have already mentioned, as Tim has said, huge game for Spurs this week as they play Palace on Thursday night. Of course, Spurs were beaten at the weekend by Fulham, 2-1 to Fulham. Obviously, Marco Silva's Fulham. Marco Silva's out of contract at the summer. Is he before we get on to the tactics board, is he an option for you, do you think?
For me, he would be. Wouldn't be the end of the world. I believe it's going to be Pochettino. I think there's such a clamour from the Tottenham fans to bring him in. If he wants the job, Maurizio, I think he gets it. Because it'd be impossible for them to look beyond that, because too much pressure on the new man, whoever that would be. You know, we'd lose 2 football matches and the crowd would be on top of the board of directors telling them they had the opportunity to bring Maurizio in, he didn't do it. So I think it's almost impossible to overlook him. Not that I believe that he's the right man. I don't believe Maurizio. I think Maurizio is a very good manager who's done brilliant in the past, and he ticks that box. He keeps the fans happy. So it's one less headache for the hierarchy.
Who do you believe is the right man?
I like De Zerbi, but I don't think he's ever going to get the job. I like the way he plays. I think it coincides with what the Tottenham fans want to watch, which is, open football. The only reason look, Maurizio would be a good choice as well, but I just think they need someone who's going to excite them now and have a clear identity of how he wants to play. And De Zerbi, wherever he goes, he plays the same way, and no matter who the opposition are. I saw him, his Marseille team playing against Liverpool. Yeah, they got beat heavily, but just opens up the pitch and plays.
He had dinner with Pep recently. There was pictures on the internet.
Did he? Yeah, that would have been fine. Look, I don't think he'll get it. I think he's got too much of a personality for the people making decisions there at Tottenham.
Right, so let's have a look then. So what we'd like you to do between Tim and Rene, what you would do, not what you think he's going to do, what you would do, what Spurs team would you put out to beat Palace on Thursday?
Of what's available.
Of what is available. I've got the starting 11 from the Fulham game in case you need any info, but yes.
Well, it's going to be Vicario. I think, I'm not sure about the other boy anyway, so I think Vicario will start in goal. I think it's probably the wrong time to start throwing in another goalkeeper who's played very little. It's a pressurised environment. First and foremost, they need to get this crowd going from the first minute. And they'll be with them. They'll be with them because they realise the severity of the situation now.
It looks like you're going
4-2-3-1. Yeah. So I'll go. Pedro Porro's just come back. He's very good in the final third. I think defensively, there's always question marks, but I think what he gives them in the final, he's the best option in this position. His delivery, set pieces as well. I'll go Danso instead of Dragazin.
Okay.
He's back now. Hopefully, obviously, we've not got the privilege of watching him train every day. I'm talking to him, so we don't know. And he looks fit enough. He come on. He did okay when he come on, and he gives them a long throw as well. We talked about that in the podcast. How set pieces are important, but I'm not putting him in there just because of that. I think he's a better defender than Dragazin.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think Dragazin, as always, when I watched him, I always think there's some
risk.
Yeah, some risk or a mistake in him. And we've seen that in a few previous games because I would do the same. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we're looking at, obviously Romero's going to come back into there, isn't he? He's suspended again for this one. So that'll be Danso, that'll be Mickey van der Ven. I think he picks himself.
Yep.
And I go with Sousa. Yeah.
Sousa, not Archie Gray.
Not Archie, no. Guys, because you asked, if you're playing Archie Gray there, he'll do anything. I mean, Archie Gray's a great lad, and he will do it wherever you put him on a pitch. He'll do his best, and he's so versatile. He plays in different positions. Great cross, great header from Richarlison when he come on, but he's not comfortable there. He's out of position. I want the balance there. I want a left footer there. They paid for the boy, the Brazilian kid.
13 million.
He's 20 years of age. He's not a baby, so give him the opportunity to play. Why are you bringing him if you're not going to give him an opportunity? If you've got so many injuries, so many players, and you keep plugging that position up with a player playing out of position, if you're that kid, you're thinking, well, what am I coming for?
Yeah.
When are you going to give me a chance? He's
ready. But I agree with you, Tim. It's always better to put somebody there that's naturally used to play there rather than making a makeshift.
What I would tell this boy is that because when I've watched him play, he's had cameos come on against Old Trafford and again at the Cottage on Saturday. He runs forward very quick, and when I watch him run back, it's not as quick. But I'll be telling him it needs to be quick. It needs to be quick. It's even more important you come back quick. Mm-hmm. You pick your times you're going forward. But he's got good balance. He gets forward and he delivers very well. Conor Gallagher, he played there at the weekend on the right side. I just could not understand that. Why? Conor Gallagher must be thinking, why he brought me to the club? And a lot of the Tottenham fans are thinking, why we brought you here? Yeah. Also, because he's not played well, but he's back to fitness now. And I felt sorry for him playing out against stuck out here. He's not a right-sided midfield player. Do his best wherever he's asked to play. He's an honest performer. So a lot of these, they're honest. I know what I'm going to get out of them. Mm-hmm. Connor's a box-to-box number 8.
Yeah.
He can get into the box. He can anticipate things, maybe nick you a goal. But he also can pass forward, but you need to be, both him and Archie Gray, who's going to play in here, they need to be told, I don't want you playing safe. I want you popping it forward into these three. Play forward, and a little bit of protection when you need to.
So why was he playing out on the right?
God knows. I have no idea.
There was a few questions about that. A lot of fans were going on about like what is Igor Tudor doing, playing so many players out of position. Yeah, which is strange. Strange. And also we come a bit after this, Tim, as well as that, because I do. Carrick is he's a good character as well.
Yeah,
he's a fighter.
Both of these are you can rely on these.
Yeah.
You know when they come on, they might not play well, but what they're going to give you is everything and 100% of honesty.
Yeah.
And that is all the fans want at times, when it's not going too well.
Yeah.
So that's what I've gone for there.
Yep.
Richarlison.
Off the bench, yep.
Right, so he's just withdrawn, but he's or Solanke. They can change, no matter wherever they find themselves.
Yep.
But you got two goal scorers. No matter what you think about Richarlison, and he's a nuisance to the opposition, and most away fans like him, hate him, and that's what I like about him, is because there's a reason for that. Because he doesn't stop, he's got his gamesmanship, he'll bite you, he'll find you, he comes on with a correct attitude at Fulham, scores a wonderful header. He could have easily thrown his toys out of the Prem that he wasn't starting, but he never did that.
Yeah.
He's and that, so there'd be Solanke and Richarlison here interchanging positions, but they can change with the wide players as well. Because the wide players are going to be Xavi Simons off there, but we want him obviously operating in here. Give us a width at time, get Sousa, let him go around the outside of him, but playing in these holes. And what I always be saying to Xavi Simons, and Rene would know him very well, don't go out there and play safe. I could do that. Don't be getting the ball and passing it 5 yards backwards and forwards. I want you to penetrate. I want you to dribble. I want you to get at people. And I think I would have my arm around him and telling him how good he is. I might not necessarily believe it, but it doesn't matter. Just tell him how good he is and make him feel 6 feet tall. I think he's a small man, but I think he's got the ability, Rennie, isn't he?
Yeah. No, he's good. It's exactly that where he would play into his strength. That's where you want him. Basically, obviously, that's not the right pitching term because the players are on their own half, but he would operate in here, in the box, and then you have Richarlison making a run, whatever, or Sousa coming there, so you got options there. But he's got that ability to take players on and play little combinations and little things around the corner. So, yeah, that would definitely be working.
I've got one left.
Yep.
And I'm going Kolo Muani.
Okay.
On here. He would, if you asked him, he probably want to play in there. But he can play there. It's not as if I'm asking Archie Gray to play left back. Kolo Muani can play off this side. And we can play there, or they can interchange positions. We can switch over there. Xavi Simons, we want him in there. Like Rene said, we're going to be further up, so we want him in these areas. We want them balanced off. Whenever the ball's in wide areas, we want to fill up the box. And I think we've got enough to be able to do that. This boy was 75 million. Yeah, he's on loan at Tottenham. He was 75 million PSG. He's that for a reason. I'm not saying that all of them, they're a lot of money. I worked out that team there, without him, who's 75 million, that's 375 million pounds worth of footballer there on that pitch. That's an awful lot of money. A lot of money. So don't start. I don't want to listen to Tottenham fans talk about injuries. Yeah, because Palace would like to have that amount. Now, I'm not saying what they've spent on them is the correct money. I'm not saying they're the answer. I'm just saying I'm just an example of how much money Tottenham have actually spent, and that's not including their bench.
While we're in this half, we'll do the attacking mid. Just show me how this would set up in defence. Where do you want them?
Well, they would just drop in there like this. He would be a 10. He would get around number 6.
Yep.
Team number 6, but you don't know. We're going to have the ball.
Okay.
We're playing against Crystal Palace, so we will have the ball.
Right. Show me them in this half then.
Let's say what they were saying with Simons coming inside, and surely you've got one of the fullbacks bombing on, but that means that this guy here then has another defensive job to do if he goes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He'll get across. But one thing these have got in abundance, these two, not only honesty, and you can got energy.
Yeah.
They got legs. You can get out there. They can shift the cross. They can drop in. If they need to defend. But we don't. We're not going to defend. We're gonna rip them apart. It'll be about 4 or 5-0. Mate, God help us when we haven't got the ball.
Okay.
This will probably the picture that you got to see. Them on the line here, close. He might be a bit higher. because they're there, and now you got and now you're pinned because they play with a back 3, back 5.
Yep.
That means that probably they stays back in here, and the only way out is then a long ball. But you trust these players to be able to deal with that.
They got to defend 1v1, but they ain't even got 2. They're going to have 1 striker up here.
Yeah.
Their worry is their fullbacks when they push their fullbacks on.
Probably going to. I don't know whether it's going to be Strand Larsen because Mateta's not playing.
Yeah. And one thing you'd fancy Mickey or Danso against Strand Larsen on a sprint.
Yeah.
So what you don't want to do is drop off and let them cross balls into your box. You almost want to encourage them to play long so you can have the race. Either of these two, Mickey, or have the race with anyone in the Premier League.
And then you've got your fullbacks high and wide so that you can bring
Well,
in
no,
your...
not necessarily all of them. Not all of them, because you don't have to. You don't have to. It could be there. If Sousa's there or Pedro Porro's there, then Sousa will come in.
And he has to be in control of this side.
Yeah.
Okay. So
but what you have got when the ball is, say if Pedro Porro's in there, what you have got is that. Even there, kind of Moani in there, even, or whoever it will be.
There's 2 things I think. What you would think what Tottenham should look at in terms of looking at Manchester United, what they did, right, where they caused Palace a lot of problems. Okay. One was runs in behind the defenders like that, because that's where the penalty came from. So they all try to keep the line, but you need to make sure you get your forward runs. Yeah. Plus, when you're good in crossing areas, you got off the Richarlison, great header. Solanke's not bad in the air. Get the balls in. Yeah. Because that's how Sesko scored their goal. You know what I mean? So
Carlo Moani, and it gives you size. They've got enough size there for set pieces as well. They've got deliveries from Sousa and from Pedro Porro. I mean, we picked a good size. They're not. I mean, it's only Xabi Simons who's Oompa Loompa.
How did you describe it before? How did you describe Martinez before? I've forgotten.
Undersized.
That was it. Undersized and Oompa Loompas. Love that. Okay, and so your team, you're thinking 4 or 5-0 victory.
Yeah.
I love your confidence. I love that.
We'll take that.
How many set pieces?
Yes.
No set pieces. All open play.
All open play.
At least 20 passes.
Thank you. Rene, thank you very much as always. It's a pleasure to have you on the show again, and I presume we'll see you again before the end of the season.
I bet.
Tim, thank you very much for stepping in for your first show. We'll see you again next week as well. So thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you everybody for watching another episode of No Tippy Tappy Football. Just to remember, don't forget new Boyle Sports customers can get a bet £10, get £40 in free bets offer plus a 50% bet builder boost. That's for Rangers versus Celtic on Sunday. 18+, T's and C's apply. Please gamble responsibly. Thank you very much. We'll be back next week.